Welcome to Trucks and Tractor Power, featuring the best in MTRA monster truck racing. Today it's the Monster Drags, the Fall Classic 4-Wheel Jamboree Nationals from the Indiana State Fairgrounds here in Indianapolis, Indiana. It has turned out to be a great weekend here in the Hoosier capital at the Indiana State Fairgrounds here in Indianapolis. Abundant sunshine for the 13th and final stop of the Penda Points Championship. Now already the Bigfoot team of Dan Runte and his teammate Eric Meager have locked up 1 and 2 in the Points Championship. But still, momentum is very important, just as important in the final race of the season as it is in the first. And here with more on today's competition is Army Armstrong.
You know, rhythm or momentum is very important, and no matter what sport you're involved in. Monster truck racing is no different. Gary, you're exactly right. And the Bigfoot team, they had that rhythm or momentum at the first of the year, which pushed them through all those wins. But Fred Schaefer with his Dodge came back and quit slow dancing and started rock and rolling and took a win at Indianapolis, Indiana. However, the Bigfoot team decided, we're going to steal a little bit of old Fred's thunder. We're going to protest him. Well, they did protest the Dodge. The Dodge was deemed to be completely legal. So what we had before, if there was such thing as bad blood between this Dodge and Ford rivalry, real bad blood now.
Well, taking a look at the qualifying for today's event, Rampage, the Dodge is the fast qualifier. There is Todd Frolick in the near lane. He is the fast qualifier. He'll go up against Black Stallion. And there's Todd out of the Pontoon Beach, Illinois, in the St. Louis area. And he'll be taking on Mike Vodders in the Black Stallion. Now, Mike, of course, had been a longtime campaigner on this series. And then he kind of took over as crew chief for his wife, Pam Vodders. And now he's out with the Black Stallion 2000.
Yeah, his truck they're actually using for an R&D truck. They're going to experiment on it, find out what works, and take it over to her truck. Meanwhile, the Rampage with a 5-flat, and he made it really look effortless when he made that run.
So Todd advances to round 2. The only husband-wife team in the Penda Points Championship, the Vodders, and there's the wife, Pamela, in the Boogie Van. And she will go up against the Executioner. Pam was the 8th fast qualifier here this afternoon. Mark Hall, the Executioner, is the 5th fast qualifier.
You know, Pam, and she's going to be going up against Mark Hall, you know, 2 privateers. Both of them have really earned their way in this sport. They're on the Hall brothers in the far lane have seemed to find the right combination. Pam, to be very honest with you, towards the end of the year, seems to have lost his combination.
Oh, and
yeah,
somewhat of an upset there, Army, from round 1. Mark Hall, a 5.08. So Mark has the momentum going his way, not so for Pam Vodders in the Boogie Van. And then it's the Stinger against Hercules. The Stinger, of course, is Eric Meager. Hercules, Tim Tesmer. Eric Meager already has locked up 2nd in the point standings.
Meager and Tesmer are going to be waiting very, very patiently on the starting line because they realize that alcohol motor, the more heat you get in it, the more horsepower it's going to make. So they're not really in a hurry to go racing right now. Okay, now both drivers acknowledge they are and roll into the lights.
Once again, highlights from round 1. And again, it was all Eric Meager in the Stinger Ford at 5 seconds even on the ET. And now there's a look at Paul Schaefer in the Monster Patrol. Round 1, the Portage, Indiana veteran went up against the overkill of Kirk Dabney. Kirk, another Hoosier, so a pair of Hoosier drivers in the Hoosier capital competing in round 1.
And Hoosier going to go into the right lane is the name of this game, because in our previous race, every win in the race came out of the right lane, and today there's a traffic jam of guys trying to get over there.
But the only way to get there is to have a quicker time than the guy you're taking on.
Exactly. Got to earn your way to that rail. Yeah, exactly.
Once again, the Monster Patrol against Overkill.
Tell you what happened there. I know exactly what happened there. He scared that starter into starting that race. Dabney did that. It's an old drag racing trick, and it worked. Congratulations, Kirk. I've had guys do that to me before, but he burped the throttle and spooked the starter. He hit the switch, and the guy went to the other end.
And that was the first win from the left lane all weekend.
Well, a win is a win is a win. And if you got a whatever, Dan Patrick against Dan Runte. The DD boys are on the line right now. One in a Ford, one in a Chevrolet. And they've been there before many times. Both drivers respect each other. Gene Patterson, one-time driver for the Bigfoot team, working with Patrick, lining him up right now. Patterson has 2 new little baby girls, by the way. I want to congratulate he and his lovely wife.
Dan Patrick, a builder of many of the trucks competing here this weekend.
Like we say, Patrick, we understand, has lined up a major sponsor for next year and feels he'll be able to step up and run with the boys out of Hazelwood.
Right now it's factory against privateer, and factory would take this round at a 4.89 for Dan Runte. So Bigfoot advances. And there's a look at Fred Schaefer in barefoot. He won the last outing here at the Indiana State Fairgrounds.
You also got to remember, he also had the quickest run. He backed up a 4.64, so the Dodge team is hot at Indy.
The gunslinger is Scott Hartsock. And there's Fred Schaefer from Pontoon Beach, Illinois, now 3rd in the Penda Points Championship.
All year long, they hunted, they picked, they chased. But at Indy, they just changed the tires, and their luck changed with them. They just put the heavier tires on the front.
Schaefer would take this one.
Sometimes it's the simplest thing in the world, and that's exactly what happened to these guys. The number's not bad at all, 493 for Schaefer, and he didn't really look like he was leaning on it. So how are the pairings now?
Well, the Rampage against the Boogie Van. There's the Executioner against Stinger, Overkill, Bigfoot, and Barefoot Samson. So that will be the pairings coming up in round 2. There's a look at Todd Froelich in Rampage, your fast qualifier this afternoon. So we'll come back with more in round 2 competition at the Indiana State Fairgrounds here on Trucks and Tractor Power.